Hello, history buffs. This module we're talking about the Black Death and the Little Ice Age, more generally the entire 14th century, which worked out for nobody, but actually worked out for everybody. And it created a lot of the major innovations that are going to transform life from the Middle Ages to the early modern period. But today what I want to focus on is the Hundred Years' War, which actually was more like a series of conflicts between England and France over a period of actually 115 years. And it all started with the English claiming to be the rightful heirs of the French kingdom. But I don't want to get into too many specifics. Instead, I want to talk about how it changes medieval warfare and the way that medieval governments, and perhaps we can call them states, operate. The impact of the Hundred Years' War begins with the end of knightly warfare. During the Hundred Years' War, the English innovated in warfare by drafting Welsh longbowmen into their army. These people used 6-foot-long bows that could shoot an arrow very far and very strongly, strong enough to pierce the plate armor that knights were wearing at the time. The English were able to use these longbowmen against knights. They would be stationed well out of range of the knights and could take out entire French forces with minor casualties. But using these peasant military soldiers required a lot of money. The advantage to using knights and the advantage of the economic system and political systems that Europe was using at the time is that central governments don't need a lot of money. Basically, the soldiers had to fund themselves, and they enlist in the military for the protection of the king if their lands ever get attacked. But what England had to do was actually find a way to pay these poor Welsh longbowmen who didn't own their own property, and this is something that only a large country could do. And England was, in fact, one of the best centralized states in Europe at the time. France, on the other hand, was very decentralized at the time of the Hundred Years' War. But as the war commenced, part of France's strategy was to consolidate its control over the different regions of the country, and the French king became more and more centralized figure during the time period, and he was able to fund the same type of military that England was funding at the same time. Once both France and England were able to fund these militaries, it really set off a chain reaction of countries that realized the need for a centralized government with a centralized military, and the ability to tax and to lead a military and levy a military that was able to compete with all these large centralized states. And what we're going to see later on is the inability for the Holy Roman Empire, led by Charles V, to make up for that change. We're going to talk in Module 16, actually John Green will, about the weaknesses of the Holy Roman Empire, and the decentrality of it is its downfall. So in order to modernize, the states basically had to get rid of all the trappings of knighthood. And what we're going to see is the knights that we usually imagine, the men who joust in these great games with these full suits of plate armor, were never actually meant to be military roles. Knightly warfare was already gone. And that was just a way for the elite to make claims about their stance by appealing to the past. So, as you read about the huge societal changes during the Little Ice Age and the Black Death, keep in mind how that affected all parts of society, from the military to the poorest people to the wealthiest people in society. And the Black Death wasn't the only thing that influenced 14th century Europe. And I'll see you in discussion.